My birthday didn't start with a cake, a call, or even a lazy text with a balloon emoji. It started with my phone buzzing on the stainless steel counter while I was wiping dried milk foam off the espresso machine. Halfway through a double shift I'd picked up because rent was due. The message was from my mother. "We sold your car. Family comes first. You still owe us $6. Lin. Don't make this harder than it has to be." I stared at the screen long enough for the machine to beep at me in protest. For a second, I thought it had to be a mistake. Maybe she meant their car. The old sedan parked crooked in the driveway. But I knew better. The title was in my name. But the loan had been a family thing, which really meant my name in their control. I typed back, hands shaking. "What are you talking about? That's my car. It's my birthday." The reply came instantly. "Don't be dramatic. You live under our roof. We paid the insurance. Be grateful." I laughed. A short, sharp sound that startled the customer waiting for his latte. I finished the drink, slid it across the counter, and told my manager I needed 10 minutes. She nodded without asking. Everyone there knew I never took breaks unless something was wrong. I called home. My dad picked up, already annoyed. "What now?" "You sold my car," I said. I didn't bother with hello. There was a pause, a breath, the sound of a TV in the background. "We needed the money." "For what?" "For the household." My mother cut in from somewhere behind him. "Bills don't pay themselves, Evan." I pressed my fingers into my temple. "Then why are you saying I owe you $6,000? You've been behind." My dad said, "On everything. Rent, utilities, groceries. You think food just appears." "I cover the internet. I manage every online account. I pay the phone plan. I shop back. I literally keep this house running. And yet you're still a burden." My mother snapped. "You're 27 years old and still living here." That word burden landed heavier than the rest. It always did. "So you sold my car without telling me," I said slowly. "On my birthday. And now you want me to thank you for it." "Don't twist this," my dad said. "If you didn't want this happening, you should have been more responsible." Something in me went quiet then. Not numb clear. Like a switch flipping. "I'm coming home," I said. "Good." My mother replied. "We'll talk like adults." I finished my shift on autopilot. My reflection in the cafe window looking like someone else's face. The bus ride home took 40 minutes. Each stop felt like another second I could have turned around. Disappeared. Pretended none of this was real. But I went anyway. The driveway was empty when I got there. No car. Just an oil stain where it used to sit. Inside, the house smelled like reheated leftovers and lemon cleaner. My parents were waiting at the dining table like this was a planned meeting. Papers spread out. A yellow legal pad. A calculator. My dad gestured for me to sit. "We've gone over the numbers." I didn't agree to any numbers. I said. My mom slid the notepad toward me. 6,000. That's what you owe us. We were generous, not charging interest. I scanned the list. Rent amounts I'd already paid. Utility charges duplicated. Groceries inflated beyond reality. It was fiction dressed up as math. "This is fake," I said quietly. My dad's chair scraped back as he stood. "Watch your tone." "No," I replied. Standing too. I've watched my tone my whole life. My mom crossed her arms. "If you don't like it, you're free to leave." The words hung there, daring me. I looked around the room. The walls I'd repainted. The router I'd installed. The family laptop I'd fixed more times than I could count. All the invisible things I did so they could pretend everything worked on its own. "Fine," I said. My mother blinked. "What?" "I'll leave." My dad scoffed. "With what, you don't even have a car." I smiled then. Small and tired. "I'll manage." I went to my room and pulled a duffel bag from under the bed. Clothes, my laptop, chargers, my old external hard drive, the things that were mine because I'd earned them. As I zipped the bag, my mom appeared in the doorway. "Don't be stupid. You'll come crawling back." I walked past her. At the door, my dad called out, "If you're going to storm off, at least leave something useful behind." I turned. "What?" "The systems," he said. "Whatever you've got running. Don't sabotage us." I paused, hand on the doorknob. "I won't touch a thing," I said. "I'll leave it exactly as it is." That was the truth. I stepped outside, the door closing behind me with a soft final click. The evening air was cool, sharp, and unfamiliar, like freedom I hadn't planned for. I didn't look back. I slept on my friend Marcus's couch that night, my duffel bag on the floor like proof that this wasn't temporary. His apartment smelled like old coffee and laundry detergent, and the radiator clicked on and off like it was thinking too hard. I stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned. In the morning, Marcus handed me a mug and didn't ask questions. That was why I trusted him. When I finally told him everything, it came out in one long, unfiltered spill: the car, the debt, the word burden. He listened without interrupting, jaw tightening at the right moments. "That's not normal," he said when I finished. "You know that, right?" "I know," I said. "I just didn't want to admit it." I set my laptop on the small kitchen table after he left for work. It felt heavier than usual, like it knew what was coming. For years, I'd been the invisible operator behind my family's life, the one who set things up, smoothed things over, made sure the lights stayed on and the accounts didn't collapse. Not because I wanted power, because no one else would do it. I logged in. First, the joint account, the one my paycheck passed through before being allocated. I transferred out exactly what was mine, no more, no less. The transaction confirmation sat there, unemotional and clean. Second, autopay. I opened the utilities dashboard and turned it off. Gas, water, streaming bundles they never watched but insisted were necessary. Each click felt deliberate, not angry. Third, cards. I removed my debit card from every household bill. The system asked if I was sure. I was. I didn't change passwords. I didn't lock anyone out. I didn't reroute payments to hurt them. I simply stepped back. Then I opened a new project, something I'd been sketching in my head for months, but never dared to start because I was too busy fixing everyone else's mess. I named it HomeFlow, a simple financial tracker with automated summaries, designed to pull data from linked accounts and present it without commentary. Numbers only, patterns only. I connected the family accounts exactly as they were. No edits, no filters. I set the report to send at 8:00 a.m. the next day to the shared family email: parents, aunts, uncles, the same list my mother used for holiday updates and urgent prayers. Before closing the laptop, I added one more thing: a daily report. Same time, same recipients. I sat back and let the silence settle. For the first time, I wasn't bracing for a call, or a demand, or the next thing I'd have to clean up. I was just done. At Opdoya. My phone vibrated. Then again, and again. Messages stacked up so fast I couldn't read them all at once. Missed calls, group chat notifications, my mother's name flashing over and over. I didn't answer. I watched the emails roll in on my screen instead. Subject lines filled with shock, confusion, question marks in all caps, screenshots of balances, threads splintering as people replied to each other instead of me. Is this real? Why are there so many cash advances? Who authorized these transfers? I knew what they were seeing because I'd seen it myself for years: late fees, disguised as emergencies, loans stacked on loans, spending framed as necessity. But now it wasn't just me holding the weight of it. The numbers were speaking to everyone. My dad finally called. I let it ring out. Then my mom left a voicemail. Her voice tight and controlled in that way she used when she wanted to sound reasonable. "Evan, there's been a mistake. Something's wrong with the accounts. Call us." There wasn't a mistake. Marcus texted from work. "You okay?" "Yeah." I wrote back. "I think I just stopped lying to myself." By noon, the family chat exploded. Accusations, Deflections. A sudden scramble to rewrite history in real time. I stayed quiet, watching the truth do what it had never been allowed to do before exist in the open. I closed the laptop and went for a walk. The city felt louder, sharper, more alive than it ever had back home. I didn't know where this would lead. I only knew I wasn't going back to carrying it alone. And for the first time since I could remember, that felt like enough. I woke up the next morning to a phone that wouldn't stop vibrating. Not ringing, buzzing. Relentless. Like something trapped and furious. I didn't check the time. I didn't need to. I already knew what had happened. HomeFlow's second report had gone out at exactly 8:00 a.m. This one didn't just summarize balances. It showed timelines. Every transfer. Every cash withdrawal. Every credit advance. Lined up neatly by date. With no commentary. No judgment, just cause and effect. The kind of clarity that doesn't shout. Because it doesn't have to. By the time I unlocked my phone, there were over 100 notifications. Missed calls from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Messages from cousins who usually ignored me at holidays. A few from people who'd always treated my parents like pillars of the family. My mother called first, then my father, then my mother again. I let them go to voicemail. I opened my email instead. Threads were branching out like cracks in glass. Why wasn't this mentioned before? These numbers don't match what you told us. Is this why Evan was covering things? One aunt replied, all with screenshots. Another uncle demanded explanations. Someone asked who HomeFlow belonged to. Then my dad finally lost control. Marcus sent me a video 10 minutes later. He didn't say anything. Just attached the file. I hesitated before opening it. The video was shaky. Filmed vertically. My younger brother, Noah, must have been holding the phone. I recognized the living room instantly, the same couch. The same crooked picture frame my mom refused to straighten. My dad was pacing. Red-faced. Voice loud enough to distort the mic. "This is sabotage," he yelled. "Someone hacked us. This is fake data." My mom was crying, not quietly. Loud. Performative sobs. The kind meant to pull sympathy into the room. "I don't understand numbers," she kept saying. "Evan always handled that stuff. I trusted him." That one landed exactly where she meant it to. Noah's voice came in. Shaky but clear. "Dad, they're asking you to log in again. Live. Just to confirm." "Absolutely not." My dad snapped. "I won't participate in this circus." "You already did." A voice off camera said my aunt. Calm. Unmoved. The system pulled directly from the bank. Silence fell for a second. Then my dad lunged toward Noah. Not hard enough to hurt him, but hard enough to knock the phone sideways. The frame caught my brother stumbling back. My mom screaming his name. The video cut off. I stared at the frozen screen long after it ended. Noah texted me immediately after. "I'm okay. I needed you to see it." For years, he'd stayed quiet. Smaller. Easier. The favored one. Sure, but also the one who learned early that survival meant agreement. Seeing him record that moment felt like watching a fault line finally break. The family chat erupted again. Louder this time. "You pushed your own son. Why won't you log in if it's fake? This explains everything." My mom tried to regain control. She sent long messages about stress. Misunderstandings. How families shouldn't air dirty laundry. She framed herself as overwhelmed. My dad as proud but wounded. Me as unstable and vindictive. It didn't work. The numbers were too precise. The timelines too clean. The excuses didn't line up anymore. Someone, my uncle, I think, posted a side-by-side comparison. What my parents had claimed versus what the accounts actually showed. The gap between them was undeniable. Then Noah did something I never expected. He typed into the group chat. "Evan didn't do this to hurt anyone. He's been fixing things for years. We all let him." The typing bubble appeared under my mother's name. Disappeared. Appeared again. Nothing came. That silence said more than any argument. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. For the first time, the story wasn't being filtered through me. Everyone was seeing the manipulation for what it was: layered. deliberate, sustained. By noon, the narrative had flipped. Relatives who used to praise my parents for holding it all together were asking why so much responsibility had been placed on me in the first place. Why a 20-something had been managing debts he didn't create. Why the truth had been hidden. My dad tried one last angle. He claimed the software was misleading, that numbers could be interpreted differently. My aunt replied with a single sentence. Then log in. He didn't. The group chat went quiet after that, not peaceful, but resolved. The kind of quiet that comes after a verdict. I closed my phone and sat on Marcus's couch, the morning light cutting across the floor. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel angry. I felt exposed. Not in a bad way. In a way that let air reach places that had been sealed shut for too long. Later that afternoon, Noah called me. His voice sounded older than it ever had. I didn't know how bad it was. He said, I know. I replied, I should have seen it. You weren't supposed to. I said, that was kind of the point. He exhaled. I'm not taking their side anymore. I closed my eyes. You don't have to take anyone's side. After we hung up, I realized something had shifted, not just in the family, but in me. The betrayal wasn't new. What was new was that it had nowhere left to hide. And for the first time, I wasn't standing alone in front of it. People kept asking how it had gotten that bad, as if collapse only happens in explosions, not erosion, as if there had been a single moment I could point to and say, that's when it all went wrong. The truth was quieter than that. It started when I was a kid. I was the oldest, which meant I was useful before I was loved. My parents liked to tell people I was mature for my age. What they meant was obedient, easy to leave in charge, easy to rely on without asking if I wanted to be relied on at all. By the time I was 10, I knew how to reset the router, balance a checkbook, and calm my mother down when bills arrived in envelopes that felt heavier than paper. My dad worked long hours, or said he did, and came home tired, convinced the world owed him rest. My mom carried anxiety like a second spine, rigid and unyielding, and she leaned it against me whenever she felt herself tipping. Noah came along when I was 13. Everyone said it was good for me. Someone to look after. Someone to teach responsibility. What it really meant was that the spotlight shifted. Noah was sensitive, creative, easily overwhelmed. My parents learned quickly that pushing him led to tears. And tears made them uncomfortable. So they didn't push. They protected. I adapted. When something broke, I fixed it. When something went unpaid, I figured it out. When my parents fought, I stood between them, sometimes, literally, sometimes, just by absorbing the fallout, so it wouldn't reach my brother. I learned how to disappear inside usefulness. In high school, I started picking up freelance tech work, small websites, basic troubleshooting, remote help for people who didn't know how to explain what was wrong, but expected miracles anyway. The money went straight into the household account. My parents framed it as teamwork. You're helping the family, my mom would say, smiling like that was the highest purpose a person could have. I believed her. College never really happened for me. I enrolled, deferred, enrolled again. Every time I got close to leaving, something came up. A late mortgage payment, a medical bill that wasn't actually urgent, a crisis that only I seemed capable of handling. No one ever said, stay. They just made leaving feel irresponsible. By my early 20s, I was managing everything digital in the house. Banking portals, utility dashboards, insurance claims, subscription renewals. My dad called it that computer stuff. My mom said numbers stressed her out, so I carried them. At first, I thought I was helping. Then I realized I was hiding. Late fees didn't disappear. I just paid them quietly. Overdrafts didn't stop. I just filled the gaps. Loans didn't vanish. They multiplied. And I learned how to stack them so they wouldn't show all at once. When I tried to talk about it, my mom would cry. When I pushed harder, my dad would snap. So I stopped pushing. No one noticed things before I thought he did. He'd ask why I was always tired, why I never bought anything for myself, Why my room looked like a storage unit instead of a bedroom. I'd shrug it off. I'm good. He'd nod. He trusted me. That trust became another thing I felt responsible for protecting. The only person who ever really saw me was my grandmother, my mom's mother. She lived across town in a small apartment filled with old furniture and the smell of herbal tea. She watched everything without commenting until she was sure. One afternoon, when I was 24 and carrying 2 grocery bags I'd paid for into her kitchen, she asked, "Why are you still here?" I tried to joke. "They need me." She looked at me for a long moment. "No," she said. "They use you." It was the first time anyone had said it out loud. I didn't answer. I didn't know how. She squeezed my hand. Being needed isn't the same as being valued. She passed away the following year. Quietly. No drama. Just a phone call and a funeral my parents turned into a performance about loss and legacy. They spoke about family bonds and sacrifice. I stood there in a borrowed suit and felt something in me harden. After that, things accelerated. The debts grew. The explanations got thinner. My parents stopped pretending they were temporary problems. They became fixtures like furniture you learn to walk around. And I kept walking. By the time the car came into the picture, I was exhausted in ways sleep couldn't touch. The loan was my idea. A way to commute to work. Yes, but also a way to contribute more. My dad insisted the family would help with payments. They didn't. I did. The pattern was so familiar it barely registered anymore. I would carry it. They would deny it. And somehow I would still be the problem for not smiling while doing so. That was the real betrayal. Not the money. Not the lies. It was the expectation that I would keep shrinking myself to make their version of reality possible. Sitting on Marcus's couch after everything blew open, I finally let myself remember all of it not as isolated incidents, but as a single, unbroken line. The way every boundary I tried to set was treated like disobedience. The way gratitude was demanded, but never returned. I realized something else. Too. They weren't confused by the numbers. They were exposed by them. The systems I built hadn't created the damage. They'd only stopped hiding it. And maybe that was why my parents reacted the way they did: rage. Denial. Desperation. Because control only works when no one else is allowed to see behind the curtain. Noah called me that night. "I keep thinking about stuff," he said. "Things I ignored." "That's normal," I told him. "I don't know how to fix it." "You don't have to," I said. "Just don't repeat it." He was quiet for a moment. "I think they always expected you to stay." I closed my eyes. So did I. When the call ended, I felt something close to grief, but not for what I'd lost. For what I'd never been allowed to become. Understanding that didn't make the pain disappear, but it gave it shape. And once something has shape, you can finally set it down. The second report went out the next morning at exactly 8:00 a.m. I didn't watch it happen. I already knew what it would do. HomeFlow pulled the newest data: overnight transactions my parents must have assumed were invisible once the first wave passed. Fresh credit advances. A rushed personal loan. 2 overdue payments converted into emergency fees. The kind of financial scrambling that only happens when someone is trying to stay ahead of a story that's already escaped them. I was making coffee when my phone lit up. Not messages this time. Silence followed by a single call. Marcus looked at me from across the kitchen. "You gonna answer?" I shook my head. "Not yet." The family group chat reopened like a wound. Someone posted screenshots from the new report. Another person circled dates in red. A third asked a question no one had asked before. "Why are there new debts after everything that came out yesterday?" My dad responded almost immediately. "This is fake. Someone is manipulating the system." That word again. Someone. As if numbers could develop grudges. My aunt replied calmly. "Then log in. Right now. Show us." My dad pushed back with paragraphs this time long. Angry explanations about privacy, respect, how family matters shouldn't be handled like corporate audits. He accused people of turning on him, of enjoying the spectacle. Then Noah sent a message. "They're asking you to log in again. Live. Just once." My chest tightened. I knew what was coming before it happened. Another video appeared in the chat. This one was clearer. Steadier. My dad stood in front of the computer. My uncle beside him. My mom hovered just out of frame, whispering too loudly. The login page was open. The cursor blinked. Do it, my uncle said. In this. My dad's hand shook as he typed. The dashboard loaded. Balances matched the report. Down to the dollar. No lag. No glitches. No hackers. Just reality. My dad stared at the screen, then laughed sharp and unhinged. This is ridiculous. You don't understand how these things work. My uncle didn't raise his voice. Explain it. Then, silence. Then my dad exploded. He slammed his hand on the desk, knocking the mouse to the floor. This is because of him, he shouted. He set this up. He wanted to make us look bad. Noah stepped into frame. Dad, stop. My dad turned on him instantly. You stay out of this. I won't, Noah said. His voice shook. But he didn't back up. You don't get to blame him anymore. My dad shoved him not hard. Not enough to bruise, but enough to make a point. Noah stumbled into the chair behind him. The room froze. My mom screamed his name. My uncle swore. The camera dipped, then steadied again. Noah picked it up with a hand that trembled. But he didn't turn it off. That moment, small, ugly, undeniable, changed everything. No one defended my dad after that. Messages flooded in. Not chaotic this time, but direct. Don't touch him again. This ends now. You need help. My mom tried to soften it. She talked about stress, about pressure, about how families break when outsiders interfere. No one engaged. The power had shifted, and everyone could feel it. I sat on the edge of the couch, phone in my hand, part steady in a way that surprised me. I wasn't smiling. I wasn't angry. I was done. Noah called me later that afternoon. I'm leaving, he said. Not today, but soon. You don't have to rush. I told him. I know, he said, but I can't unsee it now. Neither could anyone else. By evening, the family chat slowed to a trickle. People were processing, drawing lines, making quiet decisions. My dad didn't message again. I finally received a text from my mom. You didn't have to humiliate us. I read it once. Then again. I didn't reply. Because I hadn't humiliated them. I had stopped protecting them from the consequences of their own choices. That night, I walked alone through the city. The air cool and sharp against my skin. I passed lit windows where other lives were unfolding messy. Imperfect. Honest. I realized something then. Revenge had never been the point. Clarity was. And clarity, once released, doesn't need cheering. It just stands there, unmovable, while everything else rearranges itself around it. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It spread, like oil on water slow, impossible to gather back up. By the end of the week, everyone knew, not just relatives, neighbors, church friends, old coworkers of my dad's who still commented on his posts out of habit. The story escaped the family chat and landed where my parents had always curated their image most carefully. Public. My dad tried to get ahead of it. He posted on Facebook late one night, one of those long, emotional statuses written like a confession but framed as an attack. When you sacrifice everything for your children and they turn on you, this is what you get. It began. He didn't name me. He didn't have to. He talked about betrayal, about manipulation, about how technology had been used against him by someone with a grudge and no sense of loyalty. Within minutes, the comments started. At first, sympathy, then questions, then screenshots. My aunt replied directly under his post, not angrily, not dramatically, just a cropped image from the home flow report. Timestamps visible. If this isn't accurate, please explain it. Others followed. More data. Calm. Factual. Impossible to argue with without lying outright. My dad deleted the post within the hour. The damage stayed. Bills started arriving soon after. Real ones this time. Past due notices. Warnings about service interruptions. The house that had always hummed quietly in the background lights on. Internet. 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 Stable. Water hot began to stutter. My mom called me when the electricity was shut off for 3 hours. Her voice was small. Careful. We don't know how to fix this. I held the phone away from my ear for a second. Took a breath. You'll have to talk to the utility company. I said. They explain it on the website. You always did that. She replied. I don't anymore. Silence. Word got around the neighborhood fast. People who used to wave at my parents started avoiding eye contact. Others asked careful questions. Curiosity, thinly veiled as concern. My parents felt it. I knew they did. They had built their identity on being the ones who held things together. Now everyone could see the cracks. Noah moved out 2 weeks later. He didn't make a speech. He didn't ask permission. He packed a backpack and stayed with a friend from work. My parents tried to frame it as temporary. A cooling-off period. Noah didn't correct them. He texted me a photo that night, a mattress on the floor. A window without curtains. A thumbs-up emoji. It's quiet here. He wrote. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't step back in to help. Not with logistics. Not with money. Not with explanations. When relatives asked me questions, I told the truth without embellishment. I'm not involved anymore. Some understood immediately. Others didn't. They suggested compromise, healing, being the bigger person. I nodded and changed the subject. Because I'd already been the bigger person. For years. And it had almost erased me. The final message from my dad came a month later. No anger. No accusations. Just 4 words. You got what you wanted. I didn't reply. Because what I wanted had never been punishment. It was separation. And that had already happened. Standing outside all of it, watching the consequences unfold, without intervening felt strange at first. Like ignoring an alarm that had been ringing my whole life. But slowly, the quiet settled in. I realized I wasn't responsible for the mess left behind. I was only responsible for not stepping back into it. Life didn't transform overnight. It unfolded. I stayed on Marcus's couch longer than either of us expected. Then moved into a small room I could actually afford. The walls were bare. The furniture mismatched. For the first time, every bill had my name on it, and that felt lighter. Not heavier. At work, things shifted in ways I hadn't anticipated. Without family emergencies pulling me in 10 directions, I was present, focused. I picked up extra shifts when I wanted to. Not because I had to. A month later, my manager asked if I'd be interested in training for a supervisory role. I said yes without checking with anyone. An email came through one afternoon while I was eating lunch alone, an internship offer I'd applied for months earlier and forgotten about. It wasn't glamorous. It was a start. More importantly, it was mine. I accepted it on the spot. Money stopped feeling like a moral test. It became what it should have been all along, a tool. Not a measure of loyalty. I set up my own accounts. My own systems. Clean ones. Transparent ones. Noah texted me every so often. Short updates. No drama. I'm thinking about going back to school. I might move cities. I didn't realize how loud that house was until I left. I never gave advice unless he asked. I didn't need to. He was already choosing differently. Sometimes I thought about my parents not with anger, but distance. I hope they figured things out. I hope they didn't. Either way, it wasn't my work anymore. One evening, walking home after a late shift, I realized I felt calm. Not relieved. Not victorious. Just steady. There was no one waiting to demand anything from me. No crisis hovering at the edge of my phone screen. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of space I could finally use. For the first time, my life felt like something I was building forward instead of holding together from behind. And that was enough. For a long time, I thought strength meant endurance. That if I just held on long enough, absorbed enough, fixed enough, and stayed quiet enough, things would eventually balance out. They don't. What I learned is simpler. and harder sacrifice without limits isn't love. It's erosion. And boundaries aren't punishments, they're definitions. They tell the world where you end and where responsibility belongs. Walking away didn't make me cruel. It made me honest. I didn't destroy my family. I stopped being the thing that hid their choices from consequences. That distinction matters. Because freedom didn't arrive with revenge or applause or a moment where everyone admitted they were wrong. Freedom arrived quietly. The day I stopped volunteering to disappear. If you see yourself in this story, I hope you understand this. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you failed anyone. It means you finally included yourself in the equation. You're allowed to step back. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to live a life that doesn't require you to bleed in silence. Letting go isn't weakness. Sometimes, it's the first honest thing you've ever done. This story is shared for storytelling and discussion purposes only. Names, locations, and details have been altered to protect privacy. Any resemblance to real individuals is purely coincidental.